All right, guys. Sorry it uh took me so long to actually come on this, but I was actually setting up my slide. I was setting up my thumbnail and whatever, and I am still setting everything up. But yeah, I mean, I guess I could start this by saying that I've learned that Seattle will be back in the Super Bowl next year since they have about $75 million in cap space. And yeah, I don't know. That's just scary to think about. And I think when you're a bad team, the cap space matters more rather than when you are a good team because we've already used most of our cap space from when we were climbing out of the gutter and climbing out of the hole because we actually ended up extending a lot of guys. So if you're a bad team, I think it matters a little bit more. But here we go. Sorry, I do have a few more slides to the for. All right. All right, I'm almost there. Here we go. Okay, yeah, but Seattle will be back next year since they have $75 million in cap space. And overall, I'm trying to think what else. Oh man, maybe I should private this. Nah, no, I'm not gonna private this. All right. Get receivers that can catch the ball. I mean, yeah, but Darnold like wasn't super sharp. Uh, Darnold wasn't super sharp. But let me also put one last thing on my slide. Uh, Rushing 4 in the Super Bowl. You can win. All right, cool. Here we go. Then let me screen share on my StreamYard. Okay. Here we go. And then boom. All right. So here's me talking about what we can learn from Seattle. All right. So get an actual RB1 who can read blocks when the holes aren't always there and they can get tough yards. All right. The thing that really pissed me off about, watching our team from this past year is it felt like we just never had the guys who could get those tough yards. All right. You had to do the hot one, hot two so many times. Um, and whatever. And that's just the reality of the situation. And it's unfortunate. But um, yeah. So get an actual RB1 who can read missed blocks when the holes aren't there and you have to get tough yards. But yeah, no, you need actual receivers that can catch the ball. And either way, let me go back to my messages. Let me forward this to myself. All right, sorry. I did maybe start this a minute too early, but either way, keep up the great work. Kodiak, thank you. Thank you, Cody Chepa 88. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the love that you guys supported or showed this season. And yeah, either way, it's unfortunate that our season did have to come to an end like that. But um I was just kind of hoping and ready for the off season. But yeah. Yo, what's up, Roan 77? Road 77 says, yo, pretty cool to see them. Yeah, pretty cool to see you in here, Road. Feel like you're always active in the streams or whatever. But yeah, so what can we learn from Seattle? Well, get an actual RB1 who can read blocks when the holes aren't there and they can get tough yards. All right. And then number two, see if you can rob a team for premium assets and proceed to draft a franchise tackle and a franchise corner. All right. Everybody says that, oh my God, George Payton isn't that good of a GM. Okay. But what if I told you that George Payton helped the Super Bowl champions this year draft Charles Cross and draft Devon Witherspoon? So, yeah, take that for all the George Payton haters. You're all right. He helped build a Super Bowl champion team. Now, it wasn't with us, but he did help another team build a Super Bowl champion team. So that does count for something, right? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, either way, you saw with the last two teams that won the Super Bowl, you saw them get a lot of top tier assets and absolutely fleece bottom feeders for those teams. Obviously us with Russell Wilson, and then the Tennessee Titans with AJ Brown all the way back in the day, trading him away to the Philadelphia Eagles for just like the 18th overall pick in that draft. Don't get me wrong, it was a receiver rich draft, and sometimes you trade Stephon Diggs for Justin Jefferson in the NFL, and sometimes you trade AJ Brown for Traylon Burks, and that's just the reality of the situation. Um, speaking of that, that was with a verbal team all the way back in the day. But yeah, either way, there was also another thing that I wanted to point out, and the Seahawks and the Eagles have taught us that if you can rush four in the Super Bowl, and if you can win rushing four, you can win pretty easily. And then not only did they win rushing four, but anytime they did blitz, I was like, oh my God, Drake May is going to get sacked. Anytime he dropped back, and they did that exact same blitz every single, like at least once in all four quarters. Roan77 says who won Super Bowl MVP. It ended up being Kenneth Walker. I know there was a lot of discussion. Yep. Bronco fan 99 has it right here. All right. Walker was the Super Bowl MVP. A lot of people thought that it may have been Jason Myers. A lot of people were potentially saying that it was going to be Jason Myers because, he was absolutely eviscerating before, Walker was really able to take over on those handful of drives in the second half. And while the Seattle defense was absolutely fantastic, yeah, I don't know. That's just something interesting to think about. My final point is get a defensive coordinator who can actually adapt. Okay. It seems like the league is following this blueprint where you have defensive coordinator, head coach, and Wonder Boy offensive coordinator. And I know that the meta is going to swing back to offensive minds at some point because the NFL, the thing that is most sticky throughout the years, year after year, is actually offensive success. And, defenses have just slightly been ahead of the curve over the past 3 years. So it's time for offenses to bounce back, and they will eventually because the NFL is a cyclical league. 2018, you guys were probably thinking, wow, how is defense ever going to be played on this football field ever again? But, football, once again, is cyclical. It's a very trendy league where teams construct or the way that teams are constructed, they are designed to copycat other teams. And the NFL also is built for parity. The NFL is built for teams to, teams in the NFC to try to stop the Seattle Seahawks and the teams in the AFC to stop the New England Patriots. Like ultimately, that's just what happens in the NFL. That's what the NFL is designed for, with the draft, with free agency, and, every team having the same amount of cap space. So, yes, that is crazy right there, and, I think New England also got some of the most insane schedule variants ever. Um, they had some of the most insane, schedule variants ever, and, everything that happened tonight just completely validated and completely vindicated, uh, all the talk about the Patriots schedule. The Bronco fan 99 says the Patriots got smacked because that offensive line was weak. Yeah, I feel bad for Campbell and Wilson. I feel bad for, Will Campbell in particular because he gave up 14 pressures, and he's only 22 years old. I just feel bad that a 22-year-old has to go to bed for the next 6 months, 7 months before he's back out on the football field again in a meaningful football game, and he has to think about the fact that he allowed 14 pressures in the Super Bowl. Like, if I was 22 and I had to live with that and hang my hat on that every night before I went to bed, that would suck. But if there's anything happy about Campbell, it's that he's going to have a very long career. Bronco fan 99 also says that Campbell is a better guard than a tackle. His arms are way too short for that. Arm length was one of those things that I thought it was silly when people first talked about it. I was like, wow, that's silly. If a dude can play, he can play. But I think there has been a lot of vindication the past 2 years over the prospects that have been drafted, with short arms, really, really high as far as the offensive line goes. Over the past few years, I'm trying to look up short arm offensive tackles drafted in the top 10 past 3 years. Okay. Okay. Over the last decade, Over the last decade, 118 offensive linemen were drafted in rounds 1 or 2. 21 of those, all right, this is actually a good thing to share with y'all. So yeah, over the last decade, 118 offensive linemen were drafted in rounds 1 or and 2. 21 of those 118 had an arm length of 33 inches or shorter and a sub 80-inch wingspan. 10 became guards, 10 centers, and only one right now is a tackle, Luka Decky, which is 32.5-inch arms, and a 79 and 7/8 wingspan. So once again, that's something that I think I scoffed at initially when I was scouting, but I don't know. That's something that's interesting to think about. But yeah, yo, what's up, Darian? Always fun to see you in here. Darian Bustamante says, "What's good, brother?" Is it Bustamante or Bustamante? Always fun to see you in the Co's group chat. Always fun to see you talking ball with the people in my comment section who think that they know everybody better than everybody else. But yeah, we talking about Campbell moving to guard, Darian? Yes, we are. Once again, I just think that there's a lot of um, how do I put this? There's a lot of high variance, or I wouldn't even say high variance, but there's just a lot of Bustamante. Bustamante. Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. Um, but yeah, once again, there's just a lot of things that indicate that Will Campbell would be an outlier to succeed at tackle, unfortunately. And I know that if you're the Seattle Seahawks or no, the New England Patriots, you're probably not happy with the range of outcomes and overall using a fifth overall pick on the guard, but or fourth overall pick on a guard. But hey, it was good for the Indianapolis Colts with Quentin Nelson. Okay. Bustamante? Bustamante. Okay. Bustamante. All right. Cool. Mate like Mate Ball. Speaking of which, I remember it was like a decade ago where Mate Ball had what did he do? He was watching the game, the Super Bowl 50 game in a prison cell with his teammates. If you guys huge shout out to Mate Ball because I think if you have time, you guys should actually check out his story. I think it's absolutely nothing short of phenomenal. I really, really just want to spread the good word. And you know what? If you make it to the NFL and you don't succeed on the field, there are other avenues to success. And I think that's a huge thing that people should take away from Monty Ball as well. I liked Membu more than Campbell before the draft, but I never thought that I just didn't think the disparity between them would be as big as it has been so far. I know a lot of people said that Will Campbell was going to be a guard, and I know a lot of people had talked about it, but he was really good until he sprained his MCL, and no denying he wasn't the same player after that happened. So, yeah. But either way, the Patriots actually need to go out there and find a tackle because it looked rough. And I think there's just in your biggest game of the year, I think what happened is they probably realized that Campbell is probably going to be a better guard. And they also, I think, realized that what's his name? Jared Wilson, who was consistently just getting whooped by Byron Murphy and others on the left side of the line and Wosu as well, was probably best suited to be a center in the National Football League because that can help hide some of your flaws. Like we've seen that with Luke Wattenberg. Is Luke Wattenberg the best center in the league? No, not even close. And I don't even think he's up there as far as like the very good ones. I would say he's like average to above average, but uh, you can hide a lot of flaws in a center. And I don't know. I always thought relying on Wilson, round 3 interior offensive line rookie to start was risky. It was good. It was good, but they kind of had to revamp their whole offensive line from last year in one season because they just couldn't repeat what they did last year and start Cole Strange and like all those other trash cans whoever they had. But yeah, I don't know. That was rough, man. That was rough, man. I did also think that Campbell was going to be a guard all draft season, but yeah, let's get some more comments in here. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. What can we learn from the Seahawks? Go on a crazy heater in the draft. I'm glad you're here, Aussie. I hope you're doing well. And I did the math, and you're 17 hours ahead of us. So 2:42 p.m. for Aussie Talks NFL. Always fun to see you in here. Always fun to talk about how, the way that the Broncos can improve. And I actually really hope that Aussie Talks NFL starts making content very soon because I get to talk to you every day in the Discord, and you are pretty good. Just to think, if Josh Simmons never got injured, he would have been the first tackle taken. He played great. Maybe there's a distinct possibility, but I think Membu and Campbell's stock was way, way too up for me to think that was like that much of a possibility. But yeah, what can we learn? Yes, there you go. Invest in weapons to surround the quarterback. And before Darnold had got there, or I should say, even with Geno Smith, they had what's it called? They had Kenneth Walker or whatever. After who was their RB1 after before Walker? Oh, Chris Carson. And then I think it's kind of like Sean Payton, where you had a lot of the places in peace, but then you finally got your quarterback. And I thought it was fantastic. Now Denver's in a situation to where they had to uh they had to go out and get their quarterback. But then they now have to go out and get some weapons, whereas Seattle did the inverse. They drafted JSN with the 20th pick in 2023 coming out of Ohio State. And a lot of people projected JSN as like a high-end wide receiver too. I don't think a lot of people really project him as like a guy who could truly make his mark on the league. Winning outside, winning out all three receiver positions. But man, oh man, he's just looked phenomenal. I thought the Rose Bowl was a little Mickey Mouse. I was like, he played a running back who was playing corner, but I don't know, man. JSN was just him. And JSN wasn't really a factor tonight, but I don't think one game where he wasn't all that impactful erases. I don't think it erases a lot of the good that he's done this year. All right, now let's go. Let's just look at the Seahawks draft history. All right. So, first round in this past year, you get Gray Zabel, who a lot of people were projecting as like an agile left guard who had an absolutely phenomenal year. Like Gray Zabel, for all intents and purposes, had an amazing season. JSN was the only weapon from last year outside the running backs. They got 3 to 4 good ones. Well, yeah, you know what? That's a really good point. So now the ball's in the Broncos' court to do the same thing because they went out, they traded a third and a fourth or a third and a fifth for Rashid Shaheed. Then they went out and got Kupp, and I don't think anybody truly expected Kupp to be a difference maker at this point in his career. But he still had a good year. He still, brought that veteran leadership to Seattle. And Cooper Kupp is once again a Super Bowl champion. I was one of those guys that wanted us to go out and get Kupp last offseason. I was like, you know what? I think Kupp going to Seattle and being like, hey, guys, here's what we did with the Rams. Here's how we were able to win. And I got my boy Marc in here. Let's go. Let's go.
What up?
Yo, I'm super happy to see you. I'm super happy to see your beautiful face in here. But overall, just any thoughts on the Super Bowl in general?
Oh man, thank God it's over, huh?
Yeah, I know. I was a huge fan.
It's always nice.
I was a huge fan of how can I put this? I was a huge fan of let the clock hit 8:30 Mountain Time tonight so that the season's finally done.
Yeah. No, man, it was honestly, I kind of expected for it to be a pretty boring Super Bowl, but I was hoping it would actually be entertaining because I just genuinely was like, there's no, like, I felt like Seattle was such a better team than New England.
Yeah.
I feel like, and it's annoying because we say it, everyone's like, you're a hater because you lost to them. And it's like, I just genuinely feel that way.
No, yeah.
But I think what we could learn from tonight was, defense still does win championships, man. Like, I don't know if that was something that kind of went away, but like even the New England's defense for a part of that game kind of kept them in it. Like it was 9-0. I was like, this kind of feels like it should be a blowout, but defense wins championships, man. You got to keep on building, to the strength of the defense. And then let's get a freaking running game. If you're talking about the Broncos, we need to be able to get a running game, man.
Yeah, for real. And even
there you go.
Yeah, even though Sharp went down in against the 49ers in the divisional round, man, they leaned on Walker and they leaned on him hard. Okay.
Hard.
They leaned on him like a guy who they weren't going to re-sign because they were just like, all right, we'll just give him all the run throughout this game. Roan77 says, you hear about the Rams spearing on Cooper Kupp at the offseason. I mean, did I? I mean, I heard bits and pieces, but I didn't. It kind of passed me by. Do you hear anything about that? I remember I saw something, but I remember they were like trying
like
to
like the organization of the fans. That would be very different. But yeah, I don't know why the Rams organization would on Cooper Kupp. I just feel like he's been like the model of, like the best type of role model and representation of a team. So that would be weird.
Yeah. All right. Kupp won at Denver in the offseason. We didn't want him. That's interesting to think about. I remember I was talking a little bit about how, me and David were a few of the people who really wanted Cooper Kupp last year. Not because I didn't think he would provide that much results on the field. Like I thought he would still get like 500, 550 yards, but I was like, you know what? I think he's somebody who can grow up a lot of the people in the receiver room. I think, he could go in those tough games and be like, hey guys, when we were at the Rams, we did X, Y, and Z to help win the Super Bowl. And, obviously he had that insane year in 2021. But, what were your thoughts about Cooper Kupp last season, last offseason, last March? And what do you think about him, this year in Seattle?
Yeah, I remember I made a big video on him. I really wanted the Broncos to get him. I was a really big fan of it, and I think just because I felt like you knew what you were going to be getting with him, um, being a slot receiver and all of that. To be honest, like once you kind of saw the way the season played out, I don't know how much he would have elevated the room necessarily. I don't think he was all that good really this year. I mean, he wasn't really himself. He was fine. But I mean, if you remember, he kind of started to really go off or like contribute more to the team once is it Torrey Horton? Yeah, Torrey Horton got hurt.
Yeah.
And then even then they still traded for Rashid Shaheed. So he was fine. I mean, he's a good like locker room leader guy, but we needed more than just a locker room leader guy. Like I feel like we have a lot of those, almost to the point where it's annoying. So I think it worked out for both teams. Like he fits. He kind of added to Seattle, I think, what they needed, but I don't know if he would have necessarily been that big of a benefit to us. In all honesty.
Yeah, I think you're right. Darian Bustamante says defense wins championships, but we can't think like 2015. Offense is still so important. You're right, man. Like our defense in 2015, that was like a once in a lifetime run. And we had a lot go out right our way that year for us to even get to the Super Bowl, but not only win it. And you can't, I mean, the things that are sticky year over year are offense, not defense. The NFL is cyclical, but offense is very sticky year over year. And I feel like, you go out and get those premium weapons and you get a JSN, a Cup, and hopefully they can re-sign Walker for their sake, but we'll see. I think they probably will ultimately because he came up big in the Super Bowl. But yeah, no, any premium guys you currently have your eye on for the Broncos to go out this season, and any guys that are currently on your radar? I mean, they do have to get kind of creative because they're not going to be in a position to draft a JSN in a sense.
Yeah. It's tough. I feel like this is probably the year. Like, we talk about if you want to have a solution, like if you want to actually get a wide receiver one and you want to really fix your tight end room, you kind of have to do it through free agency, or at least a majority through it, right? Like you might be able to hit it in the draft. Like let's say you took Denzel Boston at 30 and he's the wide receiver one, like that's great. But if you're in this small window and you really feel like you need to improve those rooms, like you kind of got to go with assets that you are familiar with. So I feel like this is a really good year to be aggressive and kind of just go out there and take a shot at those like premium free agents, even if you have to be a little reckless. And then in the draft, take smart, like do the smart picks like you've kind of been doing, right? Like BPA, really regardless of position of need, except for corner. I don't know if I can do that again, but yeah, I mean, like, especially running backs, man, there's so many good running backs in this free agency class. Like, I don't remember a free agent class that was like this deep, Like you got Kenneth Walker, who just won Super Bowl MVP. You got Tyler Algier. You got Travis Etienne. You got Breece Hall. You've got Rico Dowdle. Like the list goes on. And there's like Rashad White. Like there's a lot of really good quality running backs. So I don't know. Do you have a preference? I feel like you made a video on this, right? Like who you prefer the most?
Well, I mean, Breece Hall is my RB1 just because I think if you're going to go away from the run, and I think if you're going to give your running backs like 7 carries in the biggest game of the year, I think you should probably lean towards the guy who can do the most with those opportunities.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So like now I think maybe there's a balance there and the utilization for that has to be worth it. Like if you sign him to like a market contract and, you're giving him like your run game looks like it did in the second half of the year where you're like throwing 50 times a game, then maybe it's not worth it, regardless of how much you're paying him and how explosive he is ultimately, because there's got to be a healthy balance. But, I think, you're the one that's opposed to paying running backs early and you're opposed to like general investment into the position. But I think, after seeing how the Broncos were in the second half of the year in the playoffs, I think you're one of those people that is just like, all right, guys, I don't care how we do this. And, I just know that you didn't want Omarion last year at 20. I know that you, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily against like heavy investment into the position. So what's kind of on your radar this year? Because I know that you're much more well-versed in the draft running backs than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually like never in the whole camp of paying running backs a lot of money anyways. But over the last couple of years, you feel like the league is kind of shifted back to the running back being really, really important. And I think that there's a few things that led to that. Firstly, I just think defenses got a lot better. A lot of people talk about like the Fangio scheme with the shell defense. It really like transformed the way that offenses are playing. I mean, and you look at it like offensive numbers are down, scoring is down. It's shifted a lot towards defense. And then, when the whole saga of like running backs wanting to get paid more because they were like not getting a lot of money. I think Saquon held out and a lot of these other guys, and kudos to them for doing that. It kind of like put this emphasis on the running back position a little bit because you can always, rely on it. But I think for me, seeing how George and Sean Payton operate, it's like I would love to get a couple running backs in the draft, not necessarily with the first round picks, but like second, third, fourth rounders, and be able to develop them. But they just don't play rookies a lot. And so once you kind of come to that realization, you're like, all right, well, I guess it's going to have to be a free agent running back. So I do think that we should invest in the position. I don't know what the cost is necessarily going to be. I mean, some people are saying Breece Hall is going to get like a 3-year, $40 million deal or something like that, or 4-year, like 13 to 15 million a year. I think if he does, the guarantees are still going to be really low. Like I don't think the running back market is going to be explosive. So you can get some of those guys for a good price, but I think it's time to invest in it, especially because it's so clear right now that our Super Bowl window is wide open. Like look how close we were this year. I think you got to start changing your strategy a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And one of my things last year, one of my big hangups with the draft is, I mean, I liked a lot of our players, but I was like, man, I just don't know if they improved the bad parts of the team enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I think last year, I think they think of this like a long-term plan, and this is my cop-out, is I think last year they were just like, all right, we're going to patch all of our holes on the defensive side of the ball, or at least we're going to try to. Because they went out, they got Greenlaw and Hufanga, and then we're entering the offseason saying, wow, this Broncos team has no holes. And then the only real hole this past year was inside linebacker. But even then, your inside linebacker position was miles better than some of your bad positions on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, one thing I just want to follow up. Apparently, the Rams were calling teams not to sign Cooper Kupp, saying that he is too old, too injured to play. Then they tried to talk him into retirement before they cut him. That's strange because I feel like the Rams are one of the most well put together, well established organizations in the NFL. Aside from the fact that they don't have fans.
Yeah,
that's weird. But Jadarian Price. All right, let's talk about him. Talk about him. So
I do it.
You like him. You like him a lot.
Yeah.
My only hang up with Jadarian Price, I think he's worth the pick at 30. I genuinely do. I think he's a really, really good running back. My only hang up is that if you were to draft him this year, you would have gone from using your second round pick last year on a running back to using your first round pick on a running back this year got on a running back. I just feel like that is so much investment for so much I wouldn't say unknown because running backs are a relatively easy projection to the NFL, but I mean, not over the past 2 years. Like we thought RJ's skill set was mainly going to be as a runner, very boomer bust his rookie year, but as a receiver, he was crazy. And that's something we didn't see a lot of at UCF.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what do you think about our guy Jadarian Price as a prospect? What do you think about overall investment into the first round and second round back-to-back years?
I mean, okay, so on the surface, obviously I'd be like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, right? But it is the 30th pick, so that's a little bit different. Like it's such a late first. I think I would be able to give you like a full analysis of how I felt about it, depending on how free agency went, right? Like if we entered free agency and we were really aggressive in going after tight ends, like I feel like, man, we got a couple really good tight ends. Like we really revamped the tight end room. And then, man, we made a trade for like a wide receiver one, let's say AJ Brown or Jalen Waddle or whoever, right? You feel good about like the weapons you added around Bo and you didn't really address the running back position. Then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's just do it. But if you address it, like, if obviously if you get one of these big time free agents, running backs, then then obviously at that point it wouldn't be worth it. But you make a good point because you talk about like investing a second round pick 1 year and then a first round pick in another. And for me, it's not so much about the position because I love running backs, man. I love the run game. I grew up in the Terrell Davis, like he's always will be my favorite player. My thing is that it's a short shelf life. Like you're not going to sign these guys to a second contract. It's extremely rare that it happens. And when they do, they rarely like give you good value for the contract that you signed him to, right? Like even look at Saquon Barkley, who was an absolute beast, didn't sign a second contract with the original team that drafted him. So it's just rare. These guys don't play a lot, and that's kind of the big difference. Is it's like, you're spending a first round pick asset for a 4-year player max.
Yeah.
But again, if we fill up all the holes, and I feel like we had a really nice offseason, like, damn, this team is loaded everywhere. And we really took a next step, and like a running back like Jadarian Price would really be able to like solidify that run game. Then at that point, I would be all for it. But what are your thoughts overall on that?
I mean, it's just like, all right, so my only hangup is then Harvey becomes like a Y pick, I think, in a sense. Like, I know that you don't want to pigeonhole yourselves into a running back that can't play all 3 downs, either in the first or second round. And I think if you draft Jadarian Price, all right, then you defenses have a tell. Then it's just going to be like, all right, RJ is going to be our third down back, which he did a great job of this year. I don't want to take that away from him. But then you also want to, Jadarian Price is going to be your every down thumper. So it's just like, all right, then why do you take a running back who's already going to be 25 in the second round in 1 year? And I don't know. That's just the thing is I go back and forth on RJ because I'm like, man, I love the playmaking, but down to down, I was just like, man, 24-year-old running back who that's a position that should translate to the NFL easily and the running skill set. I don't know. I'm like a metronome on it. I'm sure I'll wake up and just feel differently. I'm sure I'll wake up and I'll feel differently tomorrow.
No, I think it's valid. I mean, I don't. So originally, I kind of had a problem with the fact that he was a little bit of an older running back prospect. But when you kind of looked into him and like he didn't actually play running back for a long time, it makes you feel a little bit better about it because you're like, sometimes when you see an older prospect, like, I'm not even going to say Vele because he was really old, but sometimes you'll see like a 25-year-old linebacker and in his sixth college football year, like he dominated and he had like really good stats. And you're like, well, at that point, you probably should dominate guys in college because you've been there for 6 years. With RJ, it's a little bit different. And like, I don't really care that he's older because again, you're going to have him for 4 or 5 years max. So if he's 28 when he's a free agent versus 26, it doesn't really matter that much. Mm-hmm. And he was a very young in running back terms. Like, I think he was only a full-time running back for 2 seasons. So that was like, kind of a positive in a way. Like, I don't know if that necessarily affects, like, if it limits his ceiling. Whereas normally you would think if you drafted an older player that their ceiling is usually capped at certain positions. But I don't know if that necessarily is the case with running back. But we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm going to get to a few of these comments here because I've been slacking on that. But sign Breece Hall, draft CJ Allen, Chris Brazel, and Stowers in the first 3 rounds. Obviously, I know you and I are on the same page with Stowers. Like, all right, if you're asking him to be a receiver, fantastic. Knock yourself out. But we want inline guys, all right?
Yeah.
We want guys who could actually play inline. But, yeah, I'm sure you and I would both love Raritan in here. Any thoughts on CJ Allen or Chris Brazel in the first 2 rounds because you're much more well-versed on the other positions?
I think CJ Allen is a stud. I don't think at this point he's going to make it to 30, to be honest.
Okay.
I think he's that good.
That makes sense.
I think he's that good. I'd be thrilled with him though, bro. I think he's so damn good. This linebacker class as a whole is really fun, but CJ Allen is a playmaker, man. Really, really good player. I liked him a lot. And honestly, like, so they have Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles is probably one of the best linebackers I've ever watched play. he's amazing. Yeah, Arvell Reese is amazing. They're the bona fide best too. But like, to give you guys an idea, I think personally CJ Allen is a better prospect than Jihad Campbell was last year. Mm-hmm. And he ended up going in the 30th pick, I believe, or 31st pick to Philly. And he had a really good rookie season. But I would love to get Andy's thought on that. I don't know if we asked him in the Discord, but like, I'd like to see how he has CJ Allen ranked versus somebody like Jihad Campbell. But really good player. Chris Brazel, I still don't know about him yet. I think I talked about it a little bit in the Discord. I think it's something about Tennessee wide receivers. Like every year there's like that guy, that Tennessee wide receiver that's 6'5" and has all the tools and they do nothing.
It just doesn't translate. It's an
Yeah.
offensive scheme that just doesn't translate to the NFL. Like you saw with Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman, and those guys have done less than nothing in the NFL.
And there wasn't
And
a Tyquan Thornton, didn't he go there? Or was another, or was it
no,
somebody?
Tyquan was Baylor, but there's somebody else
So
that
it
I
was
think
another guy that looked like a Thornton. Like the name, he literally went last year. He was a really
Dante
fast
Thornton.
dude.
Dante
Who?
Thornton, although he was
Yeah,
fourth rounder last year, to be
yeah,
fair, but still he was
yeah.
like 6'5" and ran like
When I
um
remember, like, and I knew he wasn't gonna necessarily go as high as Chris Brazzell. They're saying with him this year, but he was like someone that they're like, man, he's got all the tools. He's fast as hell. He's tall, and then it's just like, okay, does a whole bunch of nothing.
I know. And then
So
Heupel,
it could be a stupid, like ignorant, because you never know. He could obviously
no.
great well. And then if the Broncos took Stowers, I would be thrilled, but I would be so hesitant. Like, are they going to actually use him right?
Yeah.
Because
I'd
the
be like,
talent is amazing.
yeah, I'd be like, all right, are they going to deploy him? Like, are they going to use him as a rookie? Are they not going to? Is he going to lose snaps to Troutman? To which Austin talked to a fellow saying aggressively extend out of Troutman.
Yeah, I'm sure Kodiak would love that, right, bro?
Oh my god. Yeah,
You would
me
be
and
thrilled.
Austin me and Austin are literally talking at like 5 a.m. on the Discord every night. Like, oh god, if they bring back Troutman, we're gonna want to kill ourselves. Uh
Crazy.
Juwan Jennings is coming to Denver, fellas. Sounds interesting. Uh, I
Yeah.
know you're right. He'd be the perfect Sean Payton wide receiver, particularly because we like our wide receivers that can throw, and we like our skill position players that used to be quarterbacks. You said you kind of already mentioned it with Harvey, who was somehow recruited as a 5'8" quarterback coming out of high school. But Juwan Jennings, he blocks well, he does everything solid, and the 49ers aren't going to be able to keep him because they drafted Pearsall a couple years ago, and I mean, maybe they have an out on Ayuk's deal. I'm not entirely sure, but if they didn't keep Debo last year, I don't think they're going to be able to keep
No,
Jennings.
Ayuk is gone for sure. They
Yeah,
even
no.
said it.
Yeah, but like, I wonder if they have an out
Yeah.
there because he like missed every team meeting. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I know I remember last offseason I was like begging the Broncos to find a way to get Juwan Jennings because he was the perfect Sean Payton wide receiver. Like Sean Payton is creaming over Juwan Jennings for sure. And I just now I don't really like I'd be fine with it, but I don't know if it would make sense because we got Pat Bryant and Pat Bryant like really does um like project to be a lot like him. But I am curious actually, your thoughts on would you kick the tires on Brandon Ayuk?
I would,
Yeah.
but only here's what the only if and only if and only if you go to Dre Greenlaw, you go to Mike McGlinchey, you go to DJ Jones, and you go to Talanoa Hufanga, and you're just like, all right, tell us everything about this guy. Tell us where he sleeps. Tell us how he was when he was in his rookie year. Because Kyle Shanahan has publicly had it out for Ayuk since 2021. 2020, Kyle Shanahan has gone to the media at times. I remember I had Ayuk in 35 leagues before his sophomore year. 35 fantasy leagues, every single fantasy league I played in that year, which yes, before I go any further, I was in 35 leagues in 2021 just because that's how I was back then. And every
That's
single one of those
insane.
leagues, yeah, every single one of
That's
those leagues, I came away with Ayuk. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth round, all summer as his ADP was creeping up. I was heavy on Ayuk. And then he gets 0 points in the first game in Detroit. And Shanahan's like, yep, this guy's not giving effort. He's like, whatever. And then 2022, 2023 happened, and he absolutely balls out as one of the best receivers in the sport. But I don't know, man. I think that's just a really interesting dynamic. Like I would call about Ayuk, but I'm not moving mountains to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you make a good point. Like you got to figure out, okay, what happened? Is it Brandon Ayuk's got like, off the field concern, like work ethic problems, or did something just the Niners organization do something that was, inexcusable and caused him? Because, dude, Brandon Ayuk is a top 5 route runner in the NFL. Like he's ridiculously good, separation king. Like people forgot just how good Brandon Ayuk was. But yeah, man, like obviously you got to make sure the ACL is good too. He had that bad injury, but he's interesting, man. And you got to feel confident. Like if the Broncos made a move for him, then obviously everything else checked the boxes and it worked out. But I would love Brandon Ayuk, man. I think he's
Yeah,
not being talked about really enough.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's interesting is Ayuk had one of the I think a lot of people I forgot about this because it was only a year and a half ago and it ended up getting resolved, but Ayuk had one of the messiest contract negotiations in recent history. All
Mhm.
last remember all summer 2024, all it was that was a cinematic contract negotiation. Then they ended up re-signing him, and then he tears his ACL. Then I don't know how, because he tore his ACL early in 2024, I think like mid-October ish. Then he wasn't back on the field at all this year, so that's interesting. But
well, and it's crazy because he just he forfeited his guarantees.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
David
even Kyle Shanahan came out and was like, "I've never seen a player do that," and that makes you think like, okay, either Brandon Ayuk has lost his mind literally, or he's just so done, and whatever happened there was so egregious on their point that he didn't even care. He's like, just give me the hell out of here so I can start over. I kind of looked at that almost as a positive. It's not about the money for this kid. It's about something happened, and I can't wait to figure out what the hell it was. Because you don't ever hear about that. He literally voided out his guarantees and was like, I'm good with it. I'm done. To the point where the coach was like, whoa, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, ghosted the team, which I feel like that just doesn't happen, where you hear about these guys just not showing up to meetings or whatever. I think Shanahan has earned the benefit of the doubt, because he did a crazy good job this past year. But he's still one of the most petty guys in the sport. He definitely has a huge ego. It's different than the Sean Payton ego, but I don't know. He still is a petty SOB. But yeah, a lot of people talking about Kamara in the chat. If the Saints draft Love, are you trading for AK? I'm not personally. I just don't think he's what this team needs. I think he's on a pretty egregious contract too. I think we need guys that are ascending, not guys that are on the decline. What do you think?
Agreed. Again, though, you never know with Sean, man. He might just not be able to help himself.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I don't really care for Alvin Kamara at all.
Yeah. All right. Aussie saying RJ just feels like another role-specific player for Sean. We need a skill position player who can do everything. A 3-down running back, a wide tight end who can block and catch, a wide receiver who can win against man and zone. Yeah, and that's literally, I know it's easier said than done to go out and get all these things this offseason, but like I said, I think my ideal premise right now is, I think how do I want to put this? I think you try to address. I haven't really decided my priorities and where I want the team to address these positions. I think wide receiver will be the toughest one to figure out if you rely on pick number 30 to be there. So
yeah,
as of right now, I think trade number 30 for a proven veteran would be my ideal thing. But any ideas? Have you thought about how you want the team to attack these positions? I know that we got a little specific when we were talking about Jadaria Price and, hey, if this happens, then X, then this happens. And yeah, but any ideas early on before we see what the free agency pool looks like to how you want this team to attack it?
Well, I think you definitely have to see what the price on Jalen Waddle is going to be. Mm-hmm. And one guy that I know that would be unbelievably happy, that would go to George Payton and say, please, for the love of God, do whatever you can to get a Jalen Waddle here, is PS2 on his most recent podcast. They are really good friends.
Yeah.
And he always talks about how good he is. He's never mentioned it to the Broncos, but I think you've got to kick the tires, because it was a first-round pick they were asking for last year. Did that price go down? It could have. Or are the Broncos willing to give the 30th pick now that they know it's the 30th, rather than maybe they thought it was going to be in the 20s before? So I agree with you. I think if you're gonna try to get a wide receiver, you got to do it in the draft, most likely in free agency via trade or by signing somebody. You got Alec Pierce and George Pickens. Those are kind of, I think you're gonna have differentiating different types of opinions on both of those guys depending on who you ask. But they could be a solution as well. But yeah, I mean, AJ Brown is interesting. Justin Jefferson is most likely not going to happen, but it's something to talk about, I think. And Jalen Waddle, I mean, I love that idea, but I don't know, man. The more I think about it, I think let's go after these needs that we have on our team with vets that we know what we're going to get. Fill them up in free agency as much as you can, and then I'm really of the mindset of let's build out. I kind of want to draft at 30. I kind of want to draft a tackle, to be honest with you.
Honestly, trenches is never a bad idea. I know that it'd be another one of those where it's just dang, that's kind of whatever, being drafted into a weird position. Yeah, it'd be a little underwhelming, but I'd feel better about drafting a tackle this year than I did about Barron last year. I will say that.
Yeah, because the thing is too, man, is like, you can get a tackle. Maybe they can be your starting left guard in year one, so you're still getting value from them. But I'm so worried about our tackle situation because as good
mhm,
as McGlinchey and Bowles have been, and they're like weirdly getting better as they get older, they are getting older, and
yeah,
we don't have anything behind them. Like
no,
nobody can be confident and be like, yeah, well, if McGlinchey goes down, like I think Palcho is going to be just as good, like maybe for 3-4 games.
yeah, exactly.
But are you going to trust him in the playoffs versus elite talent? You can't say that. Frank Crum, like, I love the story, and I think he's a great developmental guy, but you don't feel confident. So it's like you want to be able to have like the young guys that you
Mhm.
can actually develop there. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and the big thing for me is that Bulls and McGlinchey, their games rely so heavily on athleticism, and that's just going to naturally tank at some point. It's naturally going
Yeah,
to
for sure.
tank at some point because those guys were two of the most athletic tackles ever coming out in 2017 and 2018. Now, obviously, McGlinchey, 10th overall to the 49ers back in 2018, and Bulls, 20th overall to us in 2017. But yeah, I mean, they've only got better as they aged. Talking about this, Denver Trap brings up an interesting point. Are you trading Moss and pick 30 for Drake London? All right, dude, there's a Riley Moss jersey behind me in my background right there. Dude, if the Falcons call me right now and they're just like Moss and pick 30 for a young wide receiver who I think is going to be on his 5th-year option next year, if they're calling me, I am, you guys see this, hold on, where's my phone? You guys see this iPhone 17 Pro right here with my Nathan McKinnon background? They call me, they say this, I am smashing my phone, hitting the
Yeah,
accept button. Are you kidding me? What
yeah,
if
for
this is all
sure.
it took? Oh my goodness. And
For sure.
Atlanta's defense is surprisingly strong now. So I don't know if they'd want to like build out of strength or whatever, but I mean they've got a really good roster, but I mean they might need edge help. So we'll see
Yeah.
after what
Yeah.
happened to Pierce, but we'll see. Any thoughts?
No, dude, 100%. I agree with you, man. Drake
Yeah.
London is 24 years old, dude.
And all
Like,
he's done is produce with horrible play over the past 3 years.
yeah,
Horrible
just
QB
been
play.
an absolute
Ritter,
baller. Yeah.
Mariota, and then who else? You know, I know Penix has been kind of erratic, but Cousins was good this past year, at least when he was in mop-up duty.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, and he played 12 games last year, and even in a lot of the games that he played, he was still injured, and he would have been the second leading receiver on this team in both catches and yards, and he would have led the team in touchdowns, and and 6 less games than than anybody else played.
Yeah,
Um, and then
that's
yeah, in 2024, man, I mean, who was the quarterback in 2024? It was
uh
a really shitty
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, and then
Cousins early on because he got hurt.
yeah.
You see the
And then
quarterback series?
Heineke and those guys, and he finishes with 100 catches for 200 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, dude. Drake London is a certified boss.
Yeah, and that's sharing the field with 4th overall pick Kyle Pitts and 8th overall pick Bijan Robinson. Now, Bijan
Mhm,
Robinson, absolute stud. Kyle Pitts,
mhm.
massive bust until this past year. Um, JPJ updates of him being arrested. Good point. ATL could be hurting for assets because they don't have a first round pick, and their first round pick from last year, or I should say their 2026 first round pick, who they hedged on last year, is currently in jail in Miami. So that's interesting. They might be trying to stock the cupboards there. Would do it for Pickens as well. Moss and 30 for Pickens. How do you feel about that? Because they did tag him, but any
Moss
thoughts?
and the 30th pick for Pickens. Yeah, I would do that too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would do it
David
too.
says 30
Again,
Moss.
like I said, I think George Pickens is phenomenal from a talent standpoint. And if the Broncos made a trade for George Pickens, then I would just trust that, okay, they're good with the off the field stuff. Just from what I know and what I've heard, which could obviously not be correct because the internet is crazy and everything's wrong, that I don't think that Sean Payton would get anywhere near George Pickens, but I would, yeah, hell yeah, I would do that. I think George Pickens is arguably even better receiver than Drake London, at least from a talent standpoint.
Yeah, of course. Gave
But
Kenneth
there are some
Walker.
things I didn't like about George Pickens also. But again, if you feel like you can get him into a better culture and he can continue maturing, then he's going to get better. Because there's a lot of plays I felt like he gave up on too. It wasn't, but
Yeah,
the
no.
talent is immense, bro.
I mean, and like I said, he got traded to a good situation with Dak, where I mean the Cowboys, especially after they traded Micah, they have one of the worst defenses year in and year out. And Dak throws the ball a lot, and they put up a lot of points at home, especially. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there wasn't as much problems this year though, and he did a really good job. Really good job. Now he was with Dak and CD and all them, but good job from Biggins this past year. He's definitely earned what he's going to get. Will be with us. Remains to be seen. Give Kenneth Walker all the money he wants. Any thoughts about adding like a style of play, a runner like Walker to this game. Like, because I saw him bail the Seahawks offensive line out of a lot of really bad situations tonight, which
Yeah.
I think that's something that we might need from this offense. From
No, I
our
think
running back.
he'd be a really good running back. I mean, he's a really good runner, but here is something that's interesting, and it's actually really funny because Chris Collinsworth said it. Like, he just flat out said it. I don't know if you guys heard it on the broadcast, but Kenneth Walker is terrible in the pass game, and he's a horrible pass protector.
Yeah. Well, he had
Like,
that third down drop. Remember?
Yeah, he's strictly just a pure runner, which at this point we're like, cool, we need that. So
Yeah.
he'd be a massive upgrade to our running back room. I mean, he's one of the better pure runners. But to say all the money he wants, like, I don't know if he's my number one choice of all the free agent running backs in general. But yeah, I mean, he'd still be a really good addition to the team. I'm curious, man. There was a little bit of a back and forth going on in the comments about Mike Evans.
Yeah.
I want to know what your thoughts are, where you kind of stand there.
I mean, I think this kind of, I want to summarize all the sides of the argument. So TW4313 says Evans in the big 2026, which, all right. How is Mike Evans not reliable? I completely disagree. Nah, Evans, I mean, what, 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons or whatever ridiculous number it was, 10 straight, 9 straight before this past season, which was just absolutely ridiculous. He's 32. He's got another year or two. I mean, maybe, but I feel like he doesn't add something that we actually need. Okay, we need someone with playmaking ability, and maybe Evans still has that. Maybe Evans still could channel some of that stuff on Diggs, because Diggs looked really good before his injury this past year too. That's very true. And I don't know, man. It's just David saying guys like Bolden and Fitzgerald will be productive well into the 30s. I'm gonna have to think about this a lot more before we go on tomorrow night in a horsepower hour, but. Man, I don't know. This will probably be a fun debate. Yeah, I'm kind of like, why would we do that sort of thing? Like, he doesn't add anything at all. I feel like he wouldn't be a true game changer at this point. Now, maybe he does just need a change of scenery. But once again, like the Kamara thing, we just need guys that are ascending. Okay, we need to take advantage of this Super Bowl window, and maybe having a guy who's still in his career and still producing for another year or two, maybe that could be the answer. Eventually, I don't know. I don't know. I just go back to this comment and I'm just like Evans in the big 2026.
I think here's my thing. I think it depends on what we would sign him for. If he was willing to, like, if it was a decent contract, like it wasn't going to be anything crazy, he just wanted to go to a contender. Mike Evans is always been one of my favorite players because he is he's an absolute dog. Like, nobody hates to lose more than Mike Evans. He was so pissed with all the BS that was going on with the Buccaneers, like losing all those games down the stretch. And I love that. And I agree with David. He is absolutely day one at 32 years old, by far and away the best receiver on our team. No doubt about that. I mean, that I agree with 1,000%. This dude is a walking 1,000-yard season. Like, everybody in Broncos country was like, oh my God, Cortland Sutton finally got his 1,000-yard season. And everyone was like freaking out. Remember? And he did it like again. And like everyone was like freaking out. I mean, Mike Evans has done it 11 times in a row. He's ridiculously good. Even though, yes, his problem is he's got a hamstring injury problem. That's his issue. But to his credit, man, like, he seems to always miss minimal time with the hamstring injury. And even when he plays injured, like, he plays still very, very good. So I understand both sides of it, but if you're really going to go for it, you could do a lot worse than Mike Evans. I will say that.
That is true. And I know you watched Stock Exchange. You were probably just laughing at everybody memeing for every wide receiver that was big being comped to Mike Evans. You know what's funny? I actually had Casey Concepcion, when I was watching him, I was like, this dude is like a 5'11 Mike Evans, but I didn't want to say Cortland Sutton. I didn't want to comp him to Mike Evans. So I was like, you know what? He reminds me of a 5'11 Cortland Sutton pre-ACL injury or whatever.
Yeah. He does have pulled pork hamstrings. That's funny. That's a good way to put it.
No, he is like one of those George Kittle types where, okay, there's always going to be a Q next to his name, when you're scrolling through and, if you have him on your fantasy team, okay, you're going to see Mike Evans questionable. Mike Evans was limited on the Wednesday practice report. But then what happens? He goes out on Sunday and you would have never even known. Okay, he just balls out. Literally, that's all it is. Okay. I'm not entrusting the Super Bowl window to a first-round rookie wide receiver at 30. Yeah, I think you're right. And you can't hedge. If Boston or Concepcion are truly your guy, you can't really hedge that they're going to be there either. And overall, I just think that there are just so many better avenues to attacking your skill positions. Like, I would love Boston. I think he's really good. I think he reminds me a lot of Drake London, but you know, the bust rate on first round receivers, early second round receivers has been, it's just really been a tumultuous range of outcomes the past 2 years. Lad McConkey and Jalen Polk were drafted 2 picks apart in the 2024 draft. And before that, you had Keon Coleman and Xavier Legette. So that's a little interesting. So there's a wide range of outcomes, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I remember too, man. Everyone was like, "Oh, I don't want Devontae Adams. He's getting old, man. Devontae Adams is washed. Like he's 33 years old this year, and like he still went out there, 14 touchdowns this last year, almost 800 yards. Like, I mean, there are a lot of these receivers that can be really productive in their 30s, especially because you just need them for a year or two. So I see both sides. I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I love Mike Evans, so I think it'd be fun to see, but there's definitely others that I would prefer over him, I would say.
Sean Payton is entrusting Lil Jordan Humphrey to be our wide receiver too in their Super Bowl window. The bar is on the floor. But you know what? I go back to this, Mark. Like, all right, we've seen what happens the past few years when you trust all these proven veterans to get snaps above our rookies. All right. And it wasn't really a big problem on the defensive side of the ball, but on offense, like, holy cow, why are we deploying Lil Jordan Humphrey so much when we have guys, even during the season where we have guys we had like Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant or whatever. So if we are going to deploy all these players like that, then I don't know. It's just something that we're going to have to live with. Like I said, if that's the cost of Sean Payton being your head coach, I guess I'll live with it. But man, oh man, it's annoying. But that's one of my other fears is that's why I think the best avenue to do it is for a coaching staff that doesn't like to deploy rookies, go out and try to trade for somebody big. Because then there's no more like, well, he's still learning the system excuse.
Yeah. Well, I think too, man, like, look, the thing about Lil Jordan is I don't really think we had much of a choice later in the year because, I mean, you guys have to understand, like, you look at the amount of snaps that he was playing, it wasn't really that high. And then in the Green Bay game, he played a lot, but that's because we had an injury. Who was hurt that game? I don't think Pat Bryant played that game. I think he had a hip. They were like saving him. And then
no. Mims, wait, no, because Bandy played too, right?
Bandy ended up coming up and playing. So yeah, I know for sure Pat Bryant wasn't in that game. So he played quite a bit that game, and to his credit, he played well. And then Pat Bryant returned versus Jacksonville. He only played 13 snaps. And then he got hurt, so he played a lot versus Kansas City. And then Pat Bryant returned, and versus the Chargers, he didn't play much at all. And then in the Buffalo game, Pat Bryant gets hurt early on. And then Franklin gets hurt. So it's like we were kind of forced to play him. Like, what were we really going to do at that point? And then in the New England game, same thing, because you had 2 guys that were out. So it's like, I don't think Sean Payton really wanted to play Lil Jordan Humphrey. I think he was happy that he had somebody. But, I wouldn't say that, like, I don't know. It wasn't like last year where they were just playing. They were playing Lil Jordan Humphrey when we were like, dude, give Franklin a chance. Give this guy a chance. Give Vele a chance, But this year it was like, I think his hands were cuffed. Like, what was he really going to do? Put Elijah Moore and Michael Bandy in? Like, there wasn't anything that was going to make more sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. And now I get it. Their hands were kind of tied with Humphrey, so I get it. What I don't understand is Troutman, but that's an entirely different conversation. Troutman, Adkins, Kroll, like all those guys. You guys know my feelings about them. You guys probably saw that rant on Twitter. A lot of talking in the chat about AJ Brown, which I love that our chat decides the direction we're going to go because honestly, they do a really good job, and I want to be able to contribute. So AJ Brown for pick number 30. How do you feel about it? I think, AJ Brown is rightfully frustrated because, he wants to be a part of a Philadelphia team. But the way Philadelphia wants to play, they want to run the ball. They want to, which I think they should. I would love for our team to actually be more efficient running the ball. But the problem is AJ Brown absolutely hates Jalen Hurts. Like, you heard about the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl.
I don't believe that.
A year ago. Well, so actually, here's a little insight. So a couple of years ago, I went to Ocean Prime Las Vegas. I guess I'm gonna just dox myself. And one of the guys from who transferred with me was from Philly, and he said that AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts would always go out to Ocean Prime Philly like every Friday, every Saturday. So I don't truly believe that they hated each other, But everything that came out, you heard like the Eagles just flat out did not get along last year, and it was like the biggest locker room at odds, and they absolutely hated each other and still managed to defeat the Chiefs. But either way, that's neither here nor there. Now, AJ Brown at 30. AJ Brown might be the most obvious pick. Oh, that would suck. That would suck because he grew up a Pats fan. I remember he was mad that they drafted N'Keal Harry over him, and maybe he was right because N'Keal Harry ended up sucking in the NFL. I think he's in the CFL now. If you want AJ Brown here, you can't tell me Mike Evans isn't a fine consolation prize. What do you think about a guy like AJ Brown? Do you think he still fits the mold of what you want? I know you're big on like Waddle or whatever, but what do you think about AJ Brown and potentially going out and getting him with that number 30?
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. Like AJ Brown, I think is he's obviously extremely talented, and he's super productive on an offense that throws the ball the least of any team. And also to add to the AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts thing, AJ Brown is Jalen Hurts' son's godfather. So I was reading about that randomly when I was looking into it. Here's my thing. Like, this might sound crazy, but I don't think that there's, even at this stage in their career, I don't think that there's that big of a gap between AJ Brown and Mike Evans. People have this such a narrow-sighted thing, because like Mike Evans was hurt this year. He broke his collarbone, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back, and then he popped his hamstring, I think, hurt his hamstring again. But like, you look at their careers, Mike Evans has been more productive for longer. I mean, not to take anything away from AJ because he's been a beast too, and he's technically been more reliable. Like he's missed less games than AJ Brown has. So, I mean, I get it, but like, do I prefer AJ Brown at 28 years old over Mike Evans in his career now? Yeah, but I don't think it's that big of a difference between the two guys. The thing is what you have to take into account is getting Mike Evans is going to cost you much less than getting AJ Brown. Like, you're probably going to have to give a first-round pickup for AJ Brown. You can just sign Mike Evans. And so that's another thing to consider. Like, you have to take that into consideration. But I think AJ Brown is a stud. I think he'd fit great in this offense. I would love to have him too. I'm curious what the asking price for him would be. But I agree with David again, man. I think he would be a hell of a consolation prize. I mean, you could do a lot worse than first ballot Hall of Famer Mike Evans. There's no doubt about that.
He makes a good point. Like, I think Mike Evans would rank like number 5 on the list of wide receivers I'd realistically want the Broncos to try to acquire. Yeah, I think that
for sure.
That sounds about right. And I mean, maybe at this stage in his career, like I know he's already won a Super Bowl, but I think he's one of those guys that he would be willing to take a discount to land somewhere where he truly wants to be. And if that is Denver, then we'll see. But it seems like Denver did a really good job at persuading people to come play for them last year. So that's really interesting as well. Like Evans isn't that much of a game changer anymore. I agree. But not say I don't disagree. I don't know. I go back and forth on Mike Evans because it's just such
it's the same thing. It's the same thing in fantasy football. It's the funniest thing because for the last 4 or 5 years, sometimes you just draft Mike Evans, you settle for him, and you're like, I'm not really excited about the Mike Evans pick. And then he plays super well for you. And then if you don't have him, you're like, I didn't want to draft him, but I'm going to try and trade for him now because maybe somebody's willing to give him up. But, I mean, yeah, dude, in 2024, he had 74 catches in 14 games, 1,000 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah, that does sound pretty damn good.
He's the model of consistency. That's just who he is.
Yeah. Now, Respect My Co-host is about to come in here and tell us his thoughts on Mike Evans. He'll always have something to say that's interesting, and it's going to be hysterical. And follow Respect My Co-host on Twitter because he has shown me so much love since the season ended, retweeting a lot of my stuff. So huge shout out to you, Mikey. And please, if you guys are not already, go follow Respect My Co-host on Twitter if you like Broncos rage bait. Mike Evans still has it. Yes. Eli Betts. Let's go. Sam Darnold, boy, congratulations. Oh, also, by the way, I didn't even realize this. Like, when I woke up today, I was like, whatever, I'll just put a shirt on. I didn't even realize until, like, midway through the game. I was like, wow, I'm repping USC for Darnold. And shout out to you, Eli Betts. I mean, was the pick worth it at 3rd overall because you prevented New England from winning the Super Bowl, where Darnold did, even though he wasn't that good tonight? Was that worth it? You tell me. I got to meet Eli Betts soon, man.
Yeah, Eli's the man, brother. He's awesome. One of the best people you'll meet.
Isn't it crazy that we have these same exact needs that we had this last offseason as we do this offseason? Broncos need wide receiver, tight end, running back, inside linebacker. What is with everyone wanting to stacking the wide receiver position and pitching the ball 40 times a game, beef up on the run game? So here's the deal, Jesse Olson. As much as I want the Broncos to be a running team, like if I were an NFL coach, I would want my team to throw 8 times a game. Like I'm not even kidding. That's the way I would want to build my team. The problem is you have a coach that has shown no willingness to commit to the run game, no matter how good it's cooking on the ground. And you'll have like after J.K. Dobbins went down, we were throwing like 50 times a game for like 200 yards. Like that's just the offense that we were playing in. And a lot of that was because of the fact that we had a tumultuous running back room. But he just doesn't commit to the run game, man. It feels like in a lot of those big games, like I remember against the Chargers Thursday night a year ago. Oh my goodness, methodical 2 opening drives where we were running the football. Then we just stopped running the football.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep. Story of our lives, brother.
What do you think about Jesse Olson's point? Like I think we're kind of at the point where I think you and me are at the point where we see 3 years of Sean Payton Broncos football, and we're just like, all right, there are just things that we're going to have to live with, and it is what it is. The unwillingness to deploy rookies, the Sean Payton, his guys that are culture fits, and then going away from the run game. That's just the stuff we're going to have to live with. So, yeah, what do you feel about that?
No, 100%. Like, there's a lot of times I'll say things and I'll get a little bit of flack in the comments, which I always enjoy. And I tell people, I'm like, guys, you have to understand, I don't feel this way. I'm just not convinced that it's going to be any different. Like, I got so sick and tired, man, every week talking about we need to run the ball. We need to be able to control the clock. The Washington Commanders are one of the worst run defenses. We should be able to run over them. And then what happens? We run the ball 23 times and we threw it 45 times. It's so aggravating. It's so aggravating. So I'm 100% with you. Like, Jesse Olson, you make a great point. If it was up to me, dude, I would draft. I would beef up the interior of the offensive line. I would try to get even better at the O-line, get some depth there. I would have 3 starting caliber running backs in the team. But I just feel like it would all be for nothing because we would have a really good run game. And all we would do is throw the ball all the time, screens and stuff like that. It's just like until I see it, which I don't know if I will in the Sean Payne era, I'm just like almost done talking about it. I'm like,
I was like, dang, I remember the Saints having Ingram and Kamara, and I remember they would run teams over. Remember Kamara's rookie year where those two were just insane? And then I looked actually back a week ago. I think I was just sitting in the shower, sitting in the dry corner. I was like, man, let me look at the 2017 rushing attempts. Ingram and Kamara, the Saints still finished like 14th in the league in rushing attempts, and you're probably not going to have an RB duo that lethal again for a long time in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, when we hired Sean, I did an experiment of like how many games has Evan Kamara had 20 or more carries in his career, and it was like 3 times.
Yeah, and that's because, I mean, Kamara, I get it. He wasn't like he was a really, really good player, but he did most of his damage in the passing game. So, like, the touches I get, but yeah. Aussie also says this: we've had nobody worth committing to in the run game. I know that Javante's had success living here. Same with Estime to an extent, but I mean, they just haven't really gotten going. And do you fault Sean for that, or do you fault just the lack of I wouldn't say investment, but just the lack of execution on some of those guys? Like I remember Jaleel had a chance to capture this backfield back in 2024 when Javonte was struggling, and he didn't. Same with Estime. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's because we just don't commit to the run game where these guys can't ramp up and get going? Because I know the hot hand is very real. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't even know at this point, man. Like I just feel like I'm out of excuses. Because like in 2024, it was okay. Jaleel just couldn't pass block. Like he couldn't pass protect. So when he's in there, you know that the ball was going to go to Jaleel. And it did like every time. And then there was Estime, same thing. Estime had a fumbling problem, and then he couldn't pass pro. So Javonte played a lot because he could pass protect, but he was just kind of a shell of himself at that point. He didn't really look the same. So it was like, okay, I see how it's a little bit more difficult. This year, he didn't really have that excuse because everyone wants to be like, well, RJ sucked at running, and he was an inefficient runner. But it's like, dude, there was games he had 6 carries.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to make a judgment on how somebody's running off of 6 carries? Because I remember in the Jacksonville game, people forgot that game because we lost. But, I mean, he had one of the most impressive runs you'll see of a running back all season.
Yeah.
Showed the burst, the explosiveness, the power, and then the ability to finish the runs like that. So it's like, RJ seems like he's that type of back that would get a lot better as the game went on. And the same thing with Audric Estime. But we haven't had that running back that's like, hey, you give me 6 carries, but I'm going to blow it up for 60, 70 yards. And I feel like that's almost the kind of back that Sean Payton needs. Like he needs someone like Kamara that's like, we might not give you the ball running a lot, but all you do is make plays. But you can't always rely on that. Like some guys just aren't built that way. So I don't know. I think a lot goes into it, but yeah, that's kind of why I'm curious to see if Davis Webb ends up taking over play calling duties and how the commitment to the run game actually changes. Because I feel like there's a lot of times, like there's some games, man, we're running the ball well, and then all of a sudden it's like we have one run that goes for -2 yards, and Sean's like, "Okay, we're done running." It's like,
Yeah.
really, dude? You're done?
Cronenwick says Sean wasn't even running the ball when Dobbins was healthy to top 5 running back. See, I don't really. We were top 5 in rushing yards at some point, and that's not like an yards per carry thing. We were top 5 in rushing yards, I think, after week 5. So I don't know. I think JK still got 15 carries a game, which I think that's worth committing to. But I don't know. It's just kind of a mix of we just haven't had talent there, or I know we had RJ, but I think the guys behind him have been terrible, like Jaleel Bidet, and I think Javonte have all been just dog shit the past 2 years. The screens drive me nuts. I agree, Jesse, but they went away after Bo Nix really started ramping up. But the screen game was lethal in 2024, low key. But also, what do you guys think about Denver picking up a quarterback 2 in free agency? I am completely off this idea. What do you think?
A what?
A cornerback 2?
No, Jesus Christ. And then no.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, dude, I'm not in on signing Devin Lloyd because I think I'm done with like all this defensive investment.
I think we have 3 cornerback 2s on this team.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to do another one. And then you're just adding more, right? They should move off of Moss or Barron. We'll talk a little bit about that. But somebody says, I think if we don't sign McMillan, Barron goes to nickel, we are re-signing Jaquan McMillan. It makes sense to always bring back your RFAs, no matter how bad they are. But Jaquan McMillan has been an absolute stud, and he is going to get an extension on this team. Run game is a problem until it's not, and it has been a problem for 2 years. Payton has to give up play calling. It was driving Knicks crazy this past year. I want to get your perspective on, giving up the play calling, because you and I are kind of at the same boat with a lot of these things. And I know, sorry, viewers, I know that Marky and I agree on a lot of things, maybe to the point where it becomes nauseating, but I think you can agree that maybe a lot of the things that were the low points of the Broncos offense this year were just Sean Payton simply having too much on his plate. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I mean, people have to really think like, dude, head coaches, man, there's so much that they have to pay attention to in a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets harder with age. It gets harder with time. And like Sean's kind of talked about it. He was being like really reflective. I don't know if this was like before the Buffalo game, but he said, as I've gotten older and I've seen everything, I've gotten more experience and stuff like that in play calling, like sometimes he's like, sometimes I think to myself, like, do I have to be more conservative? Because you always think about the calls that you got wrong versus the calls that you got right. It was really ironic that like a couple weeks later, he would make a terrible decision to throw the ball on fourth and short in the championship game. But he kind of said it like, it's one of those things where you almost know so much and you've seen so much that it becomes almost more difficult because you're just constantly overthinking. You're like, I've seen this situation, I've seen this play work well, but I've seen situations where that play doesn't work well and this play works well, but with this look, and then you're just like all over the place and everything just becomes like frazzled. And then you got to think about, okay, what kind of personnel do they have out? Which personnel package are we going to be putting out? How many timeouts do we got? What's the down and distance? All that stuff. Whereas like if you took that off and he could just focus on seeing how the game's playing out, paying attention to the defense's, the substitution packages that they made, manage the game better, and then have someone else actually make the play calls. And if he wants to veto it on certain situations, he can. It makes I feel like it would make everything smoother. It's like a win-win for everybody because, the operation is going to be better. Everyone's going to be more confident. You know what you're going to be doing. I mean, coaches, I feel like more coaches win the Super Bowl that didn't call plays than the ones that do. So Listen, I think that you can be okay with him giving it up to Davis Webb and at least be curious, see if it works. You could always revert back to Sean. It's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's kind of one of those things where I think if you start the season and Sean Payton's calling plays, it's way more difficult at that point to then go to Davis Webb because you haven't been practicing that all offseason. It's like the same thing as like when you start a quarterback, when you start a season with a rookie quarterback, is it easier to go to the vet or is it easier to start the vet and go to the rookie when you need to after that? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of that same thing. And I don't really know if it's a direct comparison, but you got to look at it in that kind of a manner. Like going back to Sean Payton calling plays is easy because that's what they've been doing for the last 3 years with Bo Nix. But if you go the whole offseason with Davis Webb doing it, then, and you learn it that way, then that makes more sense. But if you go the whole offseason like it's been status quo, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the year you switch everything up, that's just going to add another layer of like things for these guys to learn. But I mean, again, you got to look at it. Sean Payton's called plays for 14, 15 years now. He's one of the most successful play callers. His offense averages the most points of any other team or any other play caller as well in that span. So, two things can be true, but I think that if you're going to do it, you got to do it with a young, talented coordinator that's been with Sean for 3 years now, entering his 4th season, and obviously has a really good relationship with Bo Nix. And so if they're going to do it, I feel like this is the best situation that they're going to do it. Like I would have felt much better with him giving up play calling to Davis Webb than Joe Brady, for example. Because Joe Brady's like still got to learn about Bo Nix. He's been with Josh Allen. It's still different. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. You guys think Webb would be involved in drafting players? Yes, very much so. Like literally all the position coaches. Like I would be shocked if Davis Webb wasn't already part of our huge draft operations the past 2-3 years. I would be shocked if he wasn't a huge part in selecting Bo Nix back in 2024 because he was hired on the spot by Sean Payton as like as the QB coach in Russ's first year. And god dang, to be a fly on the wall in that building with Sean Payton, Davis Webb, and Russell Wilson, that would have been, and Jarrett Stidham, that would have been very interesting. But yes, I think he not only will be involved, but he already was. Webb's involvement is really interesting to think about. Agreed. And it's just at this point we know he's going to be involved. It's just to what extent. All right. Maybe we'll talk about this before we talk about our other boss. But only position we need on defense is inside linebacker. 2 starters are free agent, and the 3rd is always injured. I want to hear your thoughts on Greenlaw though, because obviously he's the most talented guy on our team. Like I think his left nut legitimately has more talent than our other inside linebackers combined. But what do you think? What do you think about Greenlaw's, struggle to get up to speed? And what do you think about, what should we do with Sternad and Singleton? Thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I'm fine with going into the season with Greenlaw as the starting inside linebacker, depending on what we did on, next to him. Like, I think if we went into it with Greenlaw, I'm fine with it, but I don't want Sternad, Singleton, any of those guys back. I feel like if you're going to do that, then, get those guys out. Let's see what we could do with Greenlaw. He's under contract. We know the kind of talent he has. If he can stay healthy, great. Yeah. And draft at that position and develop and play the guys that you currently have, play the guys that you draft. Like you get CJ Allen, you can plug and play him. That's cool. Or you sign Devin Lloyd if it's to a big contract. And then at that point, you can move on from Greenlaw. So you don't want to have like all the money tied up if you wanted to. And then you could have Devin Lloyd with, at that point, I maybe you're open to Sternad, but or he can be your main guy, and then you can still have young drafted players next to him. But I don't want to have a situation where we're like, yeah, we're just going to bring Sternad back. He's a good special teams player at worst. He can be our starter next to Greenlaw, and then we're in the exact same position that we've always been in. Exactly. Just an average team,
Exactly. Inside linebacker, at least, and man,
an average inside linebacker, yeah.
Well, the problem is, if you bring back Singleton, I just don't trust them to not deploy their guy, I just don't trust them to not be like, all right, well, Singleton is going to play like a 10, 20% snap share. He's going to be our locker room leader. Then what do you know? Before the season, they talked themselves into like him getting the green dot again. And then he's on the field more than he should be again. Once again, inspiring season. I actually have an Alex Singleton jersey on the way because of the season that he's had and because of how wrong I was in saying that they should cut him last June, but he's still just not somebody I feel good about going forward. So Riley Moss, let's talk about him. TW says that Moss is a quarterback 5.
I mean, come on, Doc. There's no way. There's no way, TW, you actually believe that. That's crazy.
I think he's thinking that Chris Abrams-Drade is better than Moss, which, I mean, Abrams-Drade has played well when he stepped in, but I know that you were one of the first to talk about this on Broncos YouTube, and I'm gonna ride this wave across because it's gonna get the clicks with the short form. But Riley Moss, all right, just makes too much sense to trade him. Unfortunately, pitch to the fans why we should trade Riley Moss, because I know you've been not the biggest advocate for it. You're like one of those people that's just like, we don't advocate for it. Like, we didn't advocate for not re-signing JFM. We just get that it would be best for the team to not do so. Why would it be best for the team to trade Riley Moss?
Well, I think it's kind of like addition by subtraction in a way, right? I think right now, Riley Moss is entering into his final year of his contract. I think it's fair to say we're probably not going to re-sign him after this year because of the talent that we have behind him and the fact that we drafted Jade Bear with the 20th overall pick. And his value is never going to be as high as it is now. And if you think he's a cornerback 5, I promise you if the Broncos put him on the trade block, he would not get a cornerback 5 compensation back. I think you can get a third or a fourth rounder for him because teams value what Riley Moss can do. And I think in some schemes, he could actually be better than he is here. Like, I think Riley Moss is a premier zone corner. That's what he was coming out of Iowa. And he played a whole lot of man here, and it was good at times, it was bad at times, but he could maybe fit in other people's systems more. But so you'll be able to get a draft pick, which you like, and it also opens up the door for Jade Barron, your 20th overall pick, to start. And I think his ceiling is a lot higher than Riley Moss's. Again, it could ultimately be that Riley Moss is a better player than Jade Barron, but you got to find out at some point. Like I said the same thing with Cortland, which is why I never wanted to re-sign Cortland Sutton is, can I say that not having Cortland Sutton on this team is going to make the wide receiver room better? No, you can't say that. But what I do know is that they could definitely be better. Like, it opens up the opportunity. And with Jade Barron, you at least feel a little bit better because you know the talent that he's got. He was a really highly touted guy coming out of Texas. And, you'd be able to get a lot of value for him there. You still have Chris Abrams-Draine as a good depth guy. And I love the idea, man. Like, let's just say you get a 4th rounder to be conservative. Dude, George Payton is killed in that part of the draft. I mean, that's where he makes a lot of his bread and butter. Like, he drafts really good players there. So if that ends up equaling like a really good depth inside offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, or a defensive lineman, or maybe a starting inside linebacker, then that's going to be massively huge. And you can, take those 2 picks and trade up if you wanted to go get a guy. So it just makes way too much sense. And I feel like as I think Riley Moss is very good corner, but he's not a playmaker at all. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be opposite of PS2, you're going to get burnt. Guys are going to get the best of you, but you've got to make quarterbacks pay. And I don't think Riley ever did that. Like, he had good coverage at times. Obviously, he had some PBUs. Like, his numbers are good, but he never made anyone pay, and like teams never feared him. Whereas Jaquan McMillan will make you fear him. Like, you can keep testing him. You might get him, and eventually he's going to get your ass. And he does it every time. And I think Jade's got a lot more potential to do that than Riley Moss does.
Yeah, and to your point about J-Mac, I remember there were only 2 guys this past year that kind of got the better of him. I think Parker Washington, he got the better of Moss too, but Wan'Dale Robinson. But, anytime you need Jaquan McMillan to make big plays, man, does he only. I know I'm talking about Singleton a lot in this chat. Strnad and Dre was a great performance against Kansas City. I agree. Like, that was probably the best linebacker game of the year from both those 2. But unfortunately, you just don't want to, like, there's a reason Strnad is in his 7th year and he hasn't got the chance to start, or going into his 7th year, and he hasn't got the chance to start except for the events of injury. And man, he really stepped up this year. I think he played phenomenally, but towards the back half of 2024, I was like, man, we've got to do something about this. But not to say he can't keep improving, but I don't want to bring back Strnad just because I think the moniker of our guys just needs to go out this offseason on offense and defense. Like, I think it's something that's just unfortunately hindered us a little too much. Singleton, the only player on the team that can wear the green dot. I think Hufanga probably can too. But I know that they always talked about, so I made this point in the comment section, and Aussie followed this up. Singleton is the only inside linebacker, apparently, who can speak English on our team. And apparently Singleton is our only inside linebacker with communication skills. And Greenlaws do not apparently communicate in sign language. What do you think about that?
That's just funny. I love it.
Yeah. Communication looked damn good in Kansas City. And teams still target. You know what? This is a good point, man. I remember Surtain was out against Kansas City. And what was the only way the Chiefs could get offense in that game? Moss with the PIs, And they still targeted him, third and long. I remember it was like 3rd and 20, 3rd and 17, 2 separate 3rd and longs in the game. And I know that the pick 6 play was absolute bogus. The pick 6 play that got wiped out from Jade Barron was just complete bogus, like terrible call. But 3rd and 17, oh my God, he just completely panicked. I think it was either against Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy. And it was just like, dude, that was the only way the Chiefs were able to claw back in that game. That was the only way they produced offense. Or 2 touchdown drives came from really long Riley Moss penalties. So this is a good point.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the numbers, like his target shares definitely went down though once PS2 went out. Like he was still targeted, but not nearly as much. It was like 11 targets, and then PS2 got hurt, and it was like 7, 8, 6, 6, and then PS2 returned, and it was like 12, 9. But I mean, yeah, he made some bad plays, but like he shut some dudes down too, man. I mean, every time, like George Pickens, when he played against us, had 7 catches for 78 yards. I'm pretty sure 6 of those 7 were on Chris Abrams-Drain. Chris Abrams-Drain actually played very bad in the Dallas game. Well, Riley Moss shut his ass down. He shut CeeDee Lamb down, and then he got hurt. So he shuts dudes down and does a lot of like good things that are not always on the stat sheet, but it just seems like every time he allows a play to happen, it's a massive play. Every time. Yeah. It's never like he'll have a holding in a blowout game or early in the first quarter. It's like 3rd and 18 with the game on the line. And then Riley makes a big mistake. And you're like, God damn it. Or it's just an egregious call because he had some of those too.
Yeah, like listen, I can understand that a lot of it. Like I do think he was heavily targeted by the NFL this year, predominantly because he was white. And you know what? I have Riley Moss's jersey in my background because I am a huge advocate for equality. I mean, what can I say, man? He's our Jackie Robinson. There's going to be kids in the Denver area that are going to watch Riley Moss play, and we're going to be producing more white corners in this generation. We already did with his best friend. I think his best friend is Cooper DeJean too, which maybe we just have sense. I know. But okay, Rowan brings up Wan'Dale Robinson. What do you think about signing him? He's a small receiver, but he had 1K this season. Wan'Dale Robinson's a stud, man. But the problem is I just don't think he adds anything that we don't already have on this team. Okay. I think you get a bigger slot in Franklin, and also Marvin Mims. I know that Sean Payton, once again, is going to be like, we're going to get Marvin the ball more. And then just never get Marvin Mims the ball. But
reminds me of Respect My Coast. He always puts the funniest memes up. Like the one of them is we like our room. Yeah. We like the room. Those are always the best George and Sean Payton. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's a freaking stud, man. But I agree with you. It's like I don't know if that's the type of receiver that we need.
Yeah. I just realized we've been going for an hour 30, or I think you joined with like 10 minutes left in here, but man, time flies when you're having fun. And I can't believe there's 50 of you in here. Sunday, February 8th, 10:56 p.m. Mountain Standard Time at night. Wow. And, I know that there's a lot of chat going on right now and that Broncos country is absolutely popping, but I think it is about time to wrap this up. And I do just want to put a meme I made on the screen real quick. I know that a lot of you, if you've been on Twitter, you've already seen it. And, I'm going to actually remove my screen share just so you guys can see this real quick. All right, y'all. Yeah. BPA, everything's on the table. Didn't align with our vision. We like what we have. Yeah, man. But either way, you will see us tomorrow night on Horsepower Hour. Or at least I assume so. But so everybody's watching on my channel right now. But Marc, if you are not subscribed to Marc, go ahead and do that. And any last thoughts or any last messages for our viewers tonight? after the
No,
Super
man,
Bowl?
that's awesome. Awesome riding with you guys. Kodiak, thanks for having me on, man. If you guys like NFL draft stuff as well, I dive into the NFL draft. I just started a new channel. It's called NFL Marc Draft. I'll put it in here at NFL Marc with a
Oh
C
yeah, let me
draft.
tag you in my description real
And
quick.
and you guys can check that out. Just starting to do like my rankings and stuff. I know Kodiak's always killing it with the draft stuff too. So we're gonna be collabing on a lot of draft stuff as well. But my message to Broncos country is, man, is thank God the season is over officially. We can look into the offseason. Frustrating as hell, man, when you watch a game like that and you're like, I genuinely believe the Broncos with Jarrett Stidham could have put a much better performance up than New England did. But it is what it is. This team is close. You know, we kind of tend to forget that because, you know, the season start over. But I'm excited for this offseason, man. I think it's going to be I really do believe that when we say we're going to be aggressive, we will be. And I just can't wait to see who we end up adding, man. So let's just be positive and enjoy it. But a lot of fun stuff coming our way for sure. The NFL season is never really over.
Nope. And now it begins the best part of the year. I know you and I, after the AFC Championship, we were just like, okay, can this game just be over? You know who I was rooting for tonight? I was rooting for 8:30 p.m. because that meant the NFL season was finally over and we could finally look towards the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
So just want to, if there are any Seahawks fans out there, which I know that we are not running a vertical stream, so we're not getting the unhinged comments, just want to say congrats to y'all. Y'all absolutely deserve it. But yeah, either way, catch us back here tomorrow night on Horsepower Hour, and we will see you guys next time. Go Broncos.
Peace.